In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast. I am Amit. That is KDot. We are continuing with our Washington Commanders coverage. The NFL draft is 1 week away. And so for this episode, we are going to be talking about our goals for the team in this coming NFL draft. And then we're going to talk about pick 11. We're going to give you our top 3 players that we would want at pick 11. And without further ado, let's get started. KDot, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Just FYI, the people listening, when you're commenting about me in the comments about the fat guy or the chubby dude or the dude with glass, I'm KDot or Kadeen. Just fucking name. Just come on, man. Like, if you're going to criticize me, at least fucking get my name right. Just the chubby guy. He's got anger. I've seen all of it. All right. I'm reading all of it. I usually don't give a fuck about comments, but I'm going to care about them this time because I'm trying to be better. At least refer to me by my fucking name.
It's the least you could do.
Please.
It's the least you could do.
If you're going to criticize, become correct.
Also, Kevin, shout out Kevin for loving the coverage. We appreciate it. I will work on getting a pop filter. There are a few other things I need to do, but noted. So apologies for the audio on this one. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into it. The NFL draft is officially a week away. And now we have pick 11 overall. Very exciting time. Seems like there are going to be a couple really, really good prospects available at pick 11. And then we have pick 47. We don't have the 3rd round pick because of the Carson Wentz trade. And then you get into the 4th, 5th round, stuff like that. But we're really going to focus on overall, what are our expectations for the draft? What kinds of players do we want? I'm not going to name specifics in this segment, but what kinds of players do we want for the future season? And so, KDot, I'm going to throw it to you right now. What are some of the positions you want addressed? What are the types of players in terms of maybe even mentality or size? Whatever you want to do with this question, you're welcome to do. The floor is yours. What would you like?
Well, what I'd like us to do is to go get a guy who's been in the league for a few years. Debo saying we'll trade everything and I'll get him. No, I'm joking. Although I love this dude. I love the dude. No, fucking Jaguars, you stupid sons of bitches.
They changed. Before we get to your answer, that Christian Kirk deal from Trent Baalke now looks like a stroke of genius.
It is the most consequential move.
Everything. Initially, they're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Watch this, motherfucker!" Like,
just chaos reigns supreme.
Chaos reigns supreme. Now we're hearing about Terry McLaurin. Now the national media wants Terry to be traded. We're like, no.
The whole 2019 draft class, AJ, DK, all of them.
We'll watch the chaos from a distance. Terry stays. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah, no, floor is yours. Floor is yours.
I mean, as far as guys like, without, because I know we're going to give our top picks as far as what is everyone. So not spoiling too much. I mean, I'm looking for guys who can come in and contribute immediately. I don't need development guys. We need guys who can come in here and get the job done right away. So what I'm looking for as far as on defense is versatility, guys that can slot in different kind of spots because we have holes there. Kind of like what you see what New England likes to do when they're drafting certain guys around that linebacker position. I think they're all these hybrid type of guys that can slide into any kind of role. And if you're going to do anything in the secondary, somebody who can play is not just a one type of thing, like somebody who can move around or at least give us some more versatility to allow other players on the team necessarily move around and slide into some of these other positions or play these hybrid sort of roles. If you're going to go offensively, you want something explosive. I mean, another tool, another weapon for Carson Wentz, right? Whatever position you're looking at, and I'm not just talking about the first round, but all the way through, we need to make sure that we're putting Carson Wentz in the proper position. I know there are a lot of people with Brandon Scarif going. We got Andrew Norwell, but it'll be a very comparable replacement, at least when we did the looking at it. It looks like it is a very comparable replacement. But, I mean, it always kind of concerned. I'd like some more depth even on the O-line, but that all goes to what it is we need to do to make sure that Carson Wentz is the guy. None of us want to be in a position where Carson Wentz is week 6 and looking like trash because there's nobody out there to necessarily help him or he's not getting protected properly. So anything that helps at least Carson Wentz be successful or on defense helps with our versatility as far as hybrid and allowing other people to get in there, slide and play.
Yeah. Okay. And so I would, first off, contributing immediately sounds fantastic. A lot of these guys, as you know, you look at the percentage of busts that occur, or the percentage of players that don't make it, the likelihood, if we could get 3 immediate contributors, that would be an amazing hit rate, just to provide perspective when you're watching the draft. for everyone out there. So yes, totally agree with that sentiment. To answer this question, I looked at our numbers last year and the year before. Our running game, our run offense, actually all right. I know Antonio Gibson himself had a so-so year. Like there were, apparently you look at advanced metrics and there were opportunities for even more yardage, for example.
Absolutely.
So like, yes, you could maybe go running back to help lighten the load for him a little bit. I'm sure that would be welcomed. But when I looked at the real Achilles heel of the team, it was the passing offense. And that's why you see a lot of wide receivers rumored and mocked at pick 11, and the passing defense. And that's where you can look at the secondary, for example, like a Derek Stingley or Kyle Hamilton in round 1, stuff like that. So for me, I really, really want to see Jamin Davis take a major step up. I have full faith that Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, etc., know what they're doing. We've talked about Marty Herney and Martin Mayhew. They know how to draft linebackers. I think it is a reasonable assumption to say that Jamin Davis is going to have a very solid year coming up, right? But we still need help in that secondary, right? So that if they can take a little extra time, to be able to guard these wide receivers, well, guess what? We got 4 first-round picks on that defensive line. Now they're getting home a hell of a lot more. So that's one thought. And the other, of course, well, we can't have Terry get all this attention, right? I mean, if we want Carson to succeed, we need to be able to help him out. And maybe that is another wide receiver, or maybe it is a tight end that you really like in the draft. But yeah, wide receiver secondary, I think the mock drafts have done a very good job saying where we need the help.
Yep.
And then you can never have enough O linemen. Let's say someone goes down. You can never have enough D linemen. I feel pretty good on the D line, actually. So more O line than D line from that perspective. So those are my goals, and maybe even a running back. What are your thoughts on the running back, actually? Because I think people kind of have a split opinion there.
I've said, I kind of alluded to it, that Antonio Gibson is becoming a bit frustrating for me as far as where his development as a running back. And that's knowing that he got drafted as a project, right? He was a guy who played majority receiver in college, even though his frame, I mean, you look at it, 6 feet, 220 something,
right?
6'2", 220. He's got like the same size as some of the guys you'd actually consider in the league to be power backs. He has that frame. But there's a lot of, he doesn't necessarily use it to his benefit as much as he likes to get around and try to bounce out and avoid contact, where I think that if he embraced it just a little bit more, he'd be able to get some more done. I think the biggest thing is J.D. McKissic coming back. I like that. Why I like that running back dream. But I mean, J.D. McKissic in the role that he has, I mean, and his frame, who knows if he could stay healthy for a full season, right? So, I mean, I'm all for getting running backs. But I also look at like Jarrett Patterson, who I still think I don't mind in certain areas or certain aspects to get carries, or if you could get somebody in a late round in the flyer or whatever, I'm cool with it. I wouldn't necessarily be apt to in the first 3 rounds going after running back unless somebody you absolutely love, just because we have a lot of that position right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I would look for a running back with vision, so that if Antonio Gibson is not seeing it for whatever reason, we're putting that guy in instead of J.D. McKissic, who, he's so valuable to our passing game. I would hate to see him get hurt running between the tackles, which he can do very, very well. But I think that's where I'm coming from.
I think the one other thing is that the other aspect of the offense that we did not get to see last year is Curtis Samuel and what he can do out of the backfield as well. Good point. I think there's a lot of, especially if we're looking at, it looks as though even if the Washington doesn't go pick 11 as far as receiver, I think everybody's of the idea that they're going to get a receiver probably in the first half of the draft at some point, right? This is how deep the receiver position is. And with that, you look at the amount of bodies that they're going to have there on the team, and you try to figure out, all right, what's the identity of the team? What are we going to look at? I think that when you look at these guys, that they fit in, and they're very, very much hybrid position players. Like when we joke about Deebo Samuel as far as his contract dispute, he gets treated like a wide receiver, half wide receiver, half running back. Right. But you start to see what they like Cordarrelle Patterson in Atlanta, and what is it doing? They're like these unicorns that exist right now, and they're not entirely sure what to do with them league-wise.
Correct.
But when you think about it, J.D. McKissic has already proven that he's an amazing receiving back out of the backfield, right? Antonio Gibson, looking at what he played in college, should be an amazing receiving back out of the backfield. Mm-hmm. Curtis Samuel also shown in Carolina that he can line up in the backfield, run anywhere as far as the outsides, even sometimes take it in between the tackles. I just think that when you have these guys who slot around all over the field, it allows you to do a whole lot, right? And do you necessarily need like a traditional power back in that way? Maybe you get somebody with a bigger body in those like third and short situations just to really, but that should be what Antonio Gibson is, right? I just think that we need to be more clever in which we're looking at those packages in the backfield. And I think a healthy Curtis Samuel brings a lot to that.
There you go. Okay. Perfect answer there. And I think that's going to smoothly transition us to round one because I have some thoughts there in a moment. So here's the deal. I want you to give your top three. Do you want to go 3, 2, 1? Do you want to go 1, 2, 3? How would you like to do that?
Up to you. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
So you're going to give your top choice. Then you're going to give your second. Then you're going to give your third. And let's go ahead and rotate. So you give your one, then I'm going to give my one.
Sounds good, because I'm going to steal yours, because I got a pretty good idea what you're doing, and mine has changed over the last week.
Okay, cool. I'm glad we're about to be on the same page here. Go ahead.
So what I'm going to do, I'm not in the top three. If there's a position that I want to hit, I'm just going to try to do one position. So like I'll name somebody. If there's somebody around that I'm thinking the same thing, I'll do it. But that's not the case. Number one, Kyle Hamilton. What he can bring to that defense, especially when we're looking at Davis needing to really take the next step. We're not entirely sure what the ceiling is for him at this particular point in time, right? All of us love Cole Holcomb, but we look at him as almost this blue collar, just get the job done, not necessarily a physical freak or an athlete playmaker in that sort of sense, as much as he lunch pail, go get the tackles. He's going to do what he needs to do, but he's not going to be that game breaker. Kyle Hamilton is a game breaker, and they need something like that in that secondary, right? You alluded to it when we were talking about what it is we were looking for overall. The biggest deficit that Washington had very early on in the season, you had the defensive line playing extremely selfishly as far as what they were looking at as far as pass rush. But with that pass rush, there was no help in the secondary whatsoever, which allowed teams to absolutely torch us until the secondary started coming together, right? And you look at some of the guys that we like, Benjamin St. Juste, no matter how much you feel about him, he's a rookie, and most rookies at cornerback, he's coming in the second year, but as a rookie and a cornerback, usually there's a lot of growing pains that happen with that. So you're hoping that he even takes a step forward. And there were a lot of different pieces in that secondary too. You look at introducing Bobby McCain and William Jackson there to it. It took a little bit for them to get on the same page, and it looks like they were finally hitting it near the end of the season. That being said, while they were doing a better job than they were at the beginning of the season, there's still a lack of playmaking ability there in the secondary. And that's where you have a Kyle Hamilton that can come in, play deep, ball hawk, or if you need help, because if Landon Collins has come back, you need help closer to the line. You need somebody that can maybe cover some of these tight ends that Davis necessarily isn't doing or hasn't learned coverage as much. This is something that he can really scroll in there and be very, very versatile, help us plug a lot of different holes, at least somewhat, until we can find more long-term solutions there to it, which I think all of us want a linebacker, a true middle linebacker in this 4-3. We didn't address it in free agency. There's nobody in the draft, I think, that really screams out to you as being the guy that can come in here and be a Ray Lewis out of the fucking gate. So I think Kyle Hamilton takes care of a lot of issues in that back half of the defense.
I just want to say I'm so glad you took the week to think about it and get it right, because
right.
Kyle Hamilton, to me, you look around at what people are saying. You're talking about scouts, coaches, even social media. Kyle Hamilton seems to be the only guy where the word generational is attached to him out of anybody in this draft. 6'4", 220. For perspective, he would be the biggest starting safety, free safety or strong safety in the NFL immediately.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about Jamin Davis's size at that linebacking position. And again, year two, I'm expecting big things. That is an assumption, but I think it's still a reasonable one considering the coaching staff we have in place. And then you have Jonathan Allen, you have Montez Sweat, you have Chase Young, you have Deron Payne. You put that defense together, that is arguably the most athletic defense in the NFL. And when you go, hey, we've invested so much in the defense, why are we still doing this? Well, it's because of what we've alluded to already and what we've explicitly stated. Actually, our pass defense actually has not been very good, even in the 2020 season where we had the second ranked defense overall. You know why? Because we were playing really bad quarterbacks. What happened when we played Tom Brady?
Torched.
Eventually, if you were right, exactly, we got torched, and you're going to go, it's Tom Brady. Yes, I get that. And I think that's fair. But eventually, the goal is to win a championship. And how are you going to do that? You need freaks everywhere on the field. Kyle Hamilton is a freak who apparently doesn't have much of an ego. He was a 2-time All-American. He was a freshman All-American as well. I mean, this guy seems to have it all. His strengths are ball hawking. So in coverage, he's apparently an excellent tackler. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what more would you want? We might be the beneficiary simply because we got some old heads thinking he ran a slow 40. He ran a 4.57 or 4.59, whatever it was. Ed Reed ran a 4.59. You think they got problems? Some of these guys wouldn't have taken him. Sean Taylor ran a 4.51. The fact that it's comparable and Kyle Hamilton is the size that he is, right? He's already got leadership abilities. When he got hurt and missed part of the year last season, he was on the sidelines coaching up these safeties for Notre Dame. What more could you want? To me, it is the home run pick. If he is available at 11, you sprint that card in faster than he ran his 40. That's how you do it. Okay.
And that means they're not overthinking. I look at Kyle Hamilton almost like the Michael Parsons of last year.
That's exactly how.
Don't overthink it. You got a freak athlete. You have a league right now where you need dudes that could be versatile, especially when coming against a lot of these offenses, which these guys are freaks. You just need freak athletes and put them in positions to do things.
Wasn't Micah Parsons pick 11 as well? I need to double check.
I think somewhere around there.
I think he might have been. We're checking right now.
They could make up for the fact that he was my favorite fucking player in the draft last year.
Oh my gosh, so good. And my buddy Oliver is a huge Penn State fan. Oh, he's picked 12. Pick 12. Okay.
Hey, well, we can do one better. He's one pick better. Okay. He's one pick better.
So Kyle Hamilton, okay. District Divided fully endorses Kyle Hamilton as the pick. What do you think is? I was just about to ask you, what is the likelihood in your eyes that he is available at pick 11? I don't think he should be, but Agreed. It sounds like he might be. So what is the probability you'd put on that?
It's really weird when looking at the front top, the teams that are ahead of us in the draft. There are a lot of teams that need a lot of things. Right? So like
that's why we are where we are.
Right. So there's if he were to get scooped up, Matt, quickly, I'd say it's well deserved for what it is. But hey, you know, those goddamn combine 40 times, people love to live by that shit. And I'm hopeful that everybody's just being a dumbass and allows him to fall to us. I guess I don't like to get to, he's in that zone where I don't think it's an impossibility, which is why we're picking, right? I don't want to get too hell bent on whether or not I think he's going to be there, because I don't want to fall in love with a guy like I did Michael Parsons last year and it'd be supremely disappointed when somebody does. So
yeah, fair enough. All right, so Kyle Hamilton would be our first choice. Second choice, KDot, floor is yours. Who would be your second choice if Kyle Hamilton's not available at 11?
So this is where I do the grab bag receiver. This is like kind of depends on what falls, right? There are some mock drafts I've seen that no receivers get picked before we pick here at 11, which would be insane to me, because I look at it once again. You look at those teams ahead of us and like, man, all you guys kind of need something, right? Now, if you're looking through those receivers, there's one guy that I know that I've kind of fallen in love with above the rest, even though I know that he's not necessarily being slotted as the best receiver in this draft. He's usually top 5 or outside of it, which is Chris Olave. But if you're looking at like a Jameson Williams is there or a Garrett Wilson is there, I'm not going to be disappointed with either one of those picks. I actually think Wilson and Williams are more versatile than Olave necessarily is when you're looking at just a standard wide receiver and where it is he could slot up on the field. But Olave to me brings that. And I know I don't live or die by the 40 speed, but you look at his highlights, motherfucker's fast. Olave on that field, the Ohio State boys and Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin, knowing Olave actually looks up to Terry and they are tight, to me brings a lot to that wide receiver room. And you have guys that can kind of grow together, at least know each other. I'm a huge fan of looking at like the Cincinnati Bengals and what it is they have in the wide receiver room, which is just a bunch of goddamn burners, right? I want the same thing for Carson Wentz. We know Carson Wentz has that deep ball. And if there's anybody that can go out there and he can launch it up to and come down with it, like that to me brings this facet of the game that we haven't had in Washington quite some time. look back and remember when's the last time we had somebody who could really push the ball down the field with any modicum of accuracy. No, just let alone being able to do it physically, right? Alex Smith couldn't do it. Taylor Heineke, we know, can't do it. Like, there's just guys that can't get the ball past 30, 40 yards down the field. It's just an impossibility. These dudes are burners, and that could be a matchup nightmare for these guys. And if you have Olave that can kind of be that deep threat, then we can see a Terry McLaurin go more into the mold of what we know he can do, which is I think Terry can run any route in the tree.
Absolutely.
But we've been so focused on getting him downfield and avoiding so much physical contact there with him because everybody basically squares off on Terry. He's the only threat, right? But allowing Olave, Samuel, I'm just imagining all these dudes that run sub 4.5, 4.4 40s being able to just go all over in the motions and it could be so much fun. And that's what whatever it is we can do to make Carson Wentz's job a hell of a lot easier. And I think you go get the burner Olave at 11. I know some people will think it's an overreach. I also know that, look, Washington we have not spent draft capital on wide receivers recently. Diami Brown, Antonio Gandy Golden. I know in the year before that, Terry McLaurin, and we're waiting for some of those guys to really kick back. But I need somebody, especially recently, we've been seeing wide receivers that come right into the league and be able to be contributors immediately. And I need to see that flash off the page. I haven't seen it yet for anybody that Washington had except Terry. I think Olave can be that.
And so at that last point, that's the thing that's making me a bit hesitant about taking a wide receiver at 11. It's one of those things where if we were to take one, I wouldn't mind a trade down in this situation. But let's say we're stuck at 11. Well, what I would do is see if Kyle Hamilton's not available. Well, now there's a chance linebacker out of Utah, Devin Lloyd, is available. And he was a consensus All-American. And we talk about needing help beyond the front four on defense. Well, I'm going to go ahead and go Devin Lloyd with my second choice because here's the thing. We brought in Carson Wentz for a reason, right? It is to help the pass offense. To me, that is the upgrade, if you will. Let's see how he does with Terry McLaurin. He likes big-bodied receivers. Well, you got Cam Sims. He's 6'5". Logan Thomas, 6'6". Amis Reyes is now in his second year. I don't know what expectations are, but he can get up and get a ball. So to me, that's what I'm thinking. And we already have Curtis Samuel on a 3-year, $34.5 million deal. So like you've invested in this wide receiver position because you're going to pay Terry as well. That's the assumption. So for me, I'm going, hey, you know what? Let's continue to improve the defense. Again, the longer you can have guys at that second and third level, at the linebacking position, at safety, corner, etc., be able to hold up a quarterback from throwing the ball, our front four is so talented, they will get there. And so that will also help us stay in games. And let's see what Carson could do. Again, if it doesn't work, well, we can get out. Right? We can get out in 1 year. That's part of the nice thing about the deal. We're very hopeful and optimistic that it works, but in case it doesn't, fine. But that would be my second choice. And I guess it'll transition to my third choice here, which is that, hey, if Devin Lloyd's not available, if Kyle Hamilton's not available, I flirted with the idea of corner a little bit, but then when, you know what? No, wide receiver is fine. And if I were to pick a wide receiver, well, this is where what Carson Wentz likes matters. Okay. If you look at the type of player he throws to, 6'3" and above, it's just true. You look at the targets that were in Philadelphia. It was Alshon Jeffrey, 6'3", Zach Ertz at 6'5", Dallas Goedert, that's 6'5". These were the three primary pass catchers for Carson Wentz. Then he's in Indy. Who's he throwing to? 6'4" wide receiver out of USC, Michael Pittman Jr. Well, guess what? There's another 6'4" wide receiver out of USC. His name's Drake London. And so I would go Drake London so that you have Terry McLaurin who can run any route in that route tree like you're talking about, KDot. And then Drake London could be that big bodied receiver that, Carson feels at home, right? I can just throw it up like I'm used to doing my entire career, you know? And that could always be like, hey, if Drake got hurt or something like that, well, then you still have Cam Sims. The more size you can get for this type of quarterback that we have here in DC, the better. So I would go Drake London. The other one I would go with, not even the Ohio State receivers, because they're about the same size, 5'11", Garrett Wilson, 6 foot, Chris Olave, Terry McLaurin, 6 feet, Curtis Samuel's like 5'10", 5'11". I don't need this like smaller lineup all over the place, as tantalizing as it sounds. Smurfs. Hey, no, the Smurf. Listen, the other guy I would go for, and this may sound silly, but there's a lot of love for Treylon Burks out of Arkansas.
Mhm.
And the one funny connection I made is that he loves hunting, and so does Carson Wentz. So fuck it, let him bond over it. Let them become boys over it. This is next level stuff you get from District Divided. Just take Treylon Burks. But in that situation, it would have to be a trade down. It would have to be a trade down.
I
wouldn't
was
feel
I was
comfortable
hoping for you to say
taking
that
11.
part. Right.
Yeah. So there you are hoping Malik Willis may still be on the board. And you're going, hey, we believe in Carson Wentz. Let's wait for one of these other teams to come in. Or that could be a Matt Corral spot or a Desmond Ridder spot. Let's get out. And let's go ahead, accumulate a few more picks, and maybe in the 20s, Treylon Burks will be there, for example. So that's what I would do, though. Drake London as my third choice at pick 11. Floor is yours, KDot.
I don't hate it. Drake London will be another guy that adds to that wide receiving group. As far as if you pick him I'd like to see. That's the thing that's so weird about the receivers is depending on who you look at, who's mock draft, they are all over the place as far as who it is that people have as like the top guy compared to who's the fifth guy. Like I've seen it just all over. It's just whoever you prefer. I do understand the bigger body aspect for Carson. That does make a lot of sense is as far as getting him something he's most used to, or then we're looking at his career to make him the most comfortable possible. Makes a lot of sense. If there's any sort of situation, somebody really falls in love with Malik Willis and he's still there at 11 and we can get 2 first for that pick.
That's what I'm saying, right?
If we can look at like a Drake London, Devin Lloyd together or something like that, I'd be cool with it. Or Devin Lloyd and maybe slip back a bit for the receiver. I do believe that Chris Olave is probably going to fall. I do think that at pick 11, it would probably be a reach compared to what other people would be doing. But I'm also believing that if you got the guy you like, just fucking go get him.
Yeah. And so in that case, are you saying Drake London would be your third choice as well at pick 11? Or what are you thinking with your third choice there? Because you've got Kyle Hamilton, you've got Chris Olave. Who would be that third one?
Derek Stingley Jr.
Okay.
This is another guy who is an absolute freak. He shows up and is one of the best corners in the damn country as a freshman. And then there's been between I think like minor injuries, other things, he's just not looked like he's gotten back to that level before yet. Even though he showed out the comment of the pro day, it was pro day that he showed out and he was like, okay, this guy still has all the freak abilities and talent. Derek Stingley to me, when you actually go watch a lot of the highlight stuff and seeing what he's able to do in the physicality of which he plays with, I think could be a really, really interesting choice at corner. I think because of his freak ability and talent, and I know a lot, like the speed of the game is so different, blah, 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 blah. What they're running in the college game with these wide receivers, it's pretty much spread and you're running as fast as you possibly can. I understand as far as the speed of the game as a running back, when you're looking at what's happening in that around the trenches, happening and developing so fucking fast. But if you can look up and you understand instinctively what's happening as far as from a cornerback position, and you can go make the plays and go fucking make the plays. I look at Derek and I'm like, look, Sauce Gardner's getting all of the press. And I get it.
Yep.
Dude's a freak too, right? But I don't think he's going to be there at 11.
I don't think so either. That's why we didn't mention him. Exactly.
Right. And he's a guy that does the Deion Sanders bit, which he knows how to fucking market himself better than anybody in this draft right now, right?
You see that chain, dude?
He knows what he's doing, right? He knows exactly what he's doing. Good job, sir. You're a businessman. I think Stingley has the ability to potentially be the best actual corner out of this draft. I think a lot of people are overlooking him. I think this is one of those things where you kind of rely on what you look like physically and what your instincts are. I think that especially in the college game over the last 2 years, ever since COVID, I think it's been really weird to see exactly what the production is from these guys. I'm just going to fall on what it is that I think they can do from a physicality standpoint. What can you do, and are your intangibles good? Now, from what I understand on both of those, they're solid. A lot of people were wondering whether or not he was fully in it with the slip back compared to what it was as a freshman. But once again, go talk to any college student over the last 2-3 years when you're trying to figure out the COVID situation, all that shit. I just think it's one of those things you put an asterisk as far as a lot of people's productions in the last couple of years. I just think physically he has the gifts and he has the talent, and I would not mind us going corner and allowing us to help out that secondary just a bit more.
And keep in mind also, I mean, this is Derek Stingley Jr. has gone against the following players at practice. He's gone against Jamar Chase. He's gone against Justin Jefferson. Like, this guy knows how to play against elite wide receivers. And you hear the quotes from these wide receivers and they're like, yeah, this dude can ball. So that's as much of a ringing endorsement as I could ever ask for from guys that have gone against Derek Stingley and Derek Stingley has gone against. So there you have it. I mean, we've named about 5-6 different players there just like that. And when you consider Aiden Hutchinson, and there's a good chance Kenny Pickett goes, and Kayvon Thibodeau and Charles Cross, and they have the tackles, Ekem from NC State and Evan Neal. Like, there is a very strong likelihood that one of the players we mentioned, at least one of the players that we have mentioned, will be available at pick 11. So we're very much looking forward to seeing what happens there. And I think that's just going to do it here, KDot.
Yeah, I will say I'm excited for this draft more than I have been like last year. So last year I felt was sort of like there were no guys that jumped off to me except for Micah. And I just didn't think that he was going to necessarily be there as much as I hoped for it, that he would fall. I just had a feeling somebody else it pains me that it was the Cowboys that did it. But this draft, there are a couple guys that I'm like excited about. And like you said, it looks like it's a really good possibility that at least a couple of these guys are there to pick 11 for us. And I look through it, I'm like, hey, hindsight's 2020. Come ask us a year from now how it works out. But these are all guys that I have no problem. Anybody that was named today, I have no problem with Washington drafting and picking up.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I would say about the wide receiver position, because I know it's exciting, it's explosive, things like that, is that you look at the names of players in the last couple of years that have come out of the draft. And again, we mentioned Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. I mean, you look at the number of names that have popped up. I think this is a trend, which is why I think it's more okay if you went with maybe a corner like a Derek Stingley, or a safety like Kyle Hamilton, or a linebacker like Devin Lloyd, or Nakobe Dean if you trade down, because those positions don't necessarily have that trend about them. Right. You need a really, really special guy. And that's why we love Kyle Hamilton. Whereas wide receivers, it seems like the trend is becoming, all these players are on Instagram putting out their footwork. I mean, everyone's becoming a freak. Jerry Jeudy, now he has Russell Wilson. Let's see if he takes off. Like, there's so much talent at the wide receiver position that's continuing to blossom and grow as the years go by, as the rules change and make it easier for receivers. It makes an enormous difference. And so I think that's why I feel more okay if on draft night we don't say a wide receiver's name in round one. Probably be okay with it. You could always potentially get a George Pickens or a Christian Watson, who's 6'5" out of North Dakota State, in round two. I mean, that's sort of my thought there. Agree, disagree, KDot?
I agree in theory, but I'm still not gonna. If Chris Olave, who is still a reach, probably is picked at 11, I'm saying a woohoo.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just this is more just a, hey, if we don't take a wide receiver, not the end of the world, because I guarantee you come back around next April and there are another 5-6 guys that you're salivating over.
Hey, all I know is that the listeners of this or the watchers of this are Washington Commanders fans, except for that one dude who I think is a Cowboys fan that's always got something fucking stupid to say. Beyond that, like, I just know half was going to be pissed off anyway. That's how we roll.
That's how we roll. Anyway, this is District Divided, a DC Sports podcast. I am Amit. That is KDot. That's going to wrap up today's episode on the NFL draft. Next week is the NFL draft, so we'll try and have a round one live reaction. I'm going to be at a wedding, so I'm not sure we can live stream, but we're going to figure that out. But we will have a reaction to pick 11, or if we trade it, pick 20 or whatever it may end up being. So until then, have a great week. Continue reading those mock drafts and the draft coverage, and we will see you next week. Take it easy.
Yellowstone is just Sons of Anarchy on horses.
All right.